Alright, animation in the market is pretty much the combination of art and standard entertainment blended into a nice, clean jar, then served to the masses who either bury themselves in its creativity and immersive storytelling or criticize its faults and label it as something less than worthy of their precious time. This is going on for as long as the Second World War though, because during that time animators and artists were hired to either promote attention towards the war or away from it. I remember that's what Disney did with Donald Duck, because they used its image to normalize the idea that Nazis were evil and promote propaganda related to the war effort. That isn't very surprising though to me, because now since most animators and artists tend to promote messages into the work in the effort to reach the public. If we're going a little further in the 1940s though, we know that colorized television was basically a norm for modern entertainment at that point in time. Because of this, artists started to become more expressive in color and facial appearances. You can take Beauty and the Beast for example. Because if that movie was broadcasted in black and white, I believe most of the effects and environments would seem less vibrant and expressive in comparison to color. But what I'm saying is that animation at that time had more or less reached its peak in terms of what they could do. It took time, yeah, but the payoff was exponential. But however, as time went on, audiences started to feel burnout on just 2D animation. They wanted something new and fresh to spice up the genre. This is part of the reason why movies like Treasure Planet and Princess and the Frog didn't really do well at the box office, because something broadened their perspective on what technology and art could do, and that something was 3D animation.
According to my Navicomputer, the...
Shut up! Just shut up, you idiot!
Sheriff, this is no time to panic.
This is the perfect time to panic!
Ever since the original Toy Story, digital animation was seen as something that could save producers and investors millions, but not relying on hand-drawn animation and stuff like that. Normally, hand-drawn animation costed millions to make with only a slightly substantial payout. It wasn't long until digital animation revolutionized the filming industry, to which companies like Disney started shifting focus onto 3D animation rather than 2D animation. I'm not saying that 3D animation is a bad thing, really. I love some things that I've seen in this style, but the reason why things are like this for 2D animation is what I believe to be an addiction to immersive detail. What I mean by this is that when you watch Toy Story for the first time, you aren't really drawn in by just the toys talking or the interesting story. What draws you in is the 3D animation and how closely it compares to the real world. When kids saw this in Toy Story for the first time, their imagination went wild. It gave them the immersion that toys could actually be a real thing for however long the movie lasted, and when they left the theater, they took that immersion with them. This is why 3D animation and live action movies are so popular. It closely resembles the real world, which 2D animation isn't really able to replicate now, and audiences around the world are more interested in that than ever before. This is the reason why live action is such a huge deal when it comes to superhero and fantasy movies, Movies like The Avengers and Shazam, which I'm really excited for. Movies like those pull people in with the idea that, wow, so this is what superheroes would look like if they were in real life. That pull proves to be strong since every movie like this, whether decent or not, grabs the attention to a wide audience. Something that 2D animated films couldn't really possibly do in the big screen now. But Teen Titans Go may prove me wrong on this. We'll just have to see how it does in the box office when it comes out soon.
She really thinks he's one of them.
Somebody make Blue Diamond stop!
Are you guys okay?
Even though 2D animation is practically non-existent in theaters, that doesn't really mean that they stopped entirely. Shows like Steven Universe and DuckTales proved to garner a relatively steady audience without relying on CGI or massive amounts of detail like in live action and 3D animation movies. While it's mostly digitally animated, the point stands that 2D animation can still hold its own in the mass market. That's especially proven with Nickelodeon and their move to produce movies based on popular franchises. Shows like Hey Arnold, Rocko's Modern Life, and Invader Zim, they've all been greenlit for television movies, and I couldn't be happier about that. So even though people love to enjoy an immersive experience in theaters, it's not to see more 2D animation out there in the wild. However, something strange caught my attention recently, that being the perception that animators and artists are becoming more lazy when it comes to drawing and animating. People call it the Kalash fiasco on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. While I'm not a fan of all animation styles, I don't really think it's fair to accuse those who pick and choose an art style that they either created or interested in. Even though it may look lazy, it doesn't really mean that it is, because animators and artists are hired for a reason, to make shows and films that sell on television and at the toy store. So if a simplified art style is what kids are more attracted to, then that's what they're gonna shoot for. If that's not your type of thing, then you shouldn't really watch the show. Excluding the story maybe if you're into that. Before I go, I want to tell you guys about a particular project that I stumbled upon while I was researching what to talk about. I found a project called Hullabaloo, a hand-drawn steampunk animated movie which was kickstarted back in 2014 with the intention to reincarnate 2D hand-drawn animation in cinemas. While not much has been said since its funding, it seems likely that the small team of hard at work could deliver a product that just might change the dominance of 3D animation, but only time will tell on that part. Alright guys, thanks for listening.